from Anshe Sfard Bethel Emeth Congregation. It's time to take 10 minutes for Torah with Rabbi Joel Finkelstein.
Welcome to our discussion of Parshat Pekudei, imaging. If we ask ourselves a question, what are all these parshiyot about the Mishkan, the tabernacle? Why the need to know the exact parameters of the sanctuary, of the altar, of the menorah, of the table, of the Aron? Why does every single Jew need to know this? And why is it that it's so important that the Torah expends so much energy on it? Yafesh sichatan shel hamishkan, the rabbis, the Torah just loves the Mishkan so much that we have Parshat Truma and Tetzaveh and Vayakel, now Pekudei, all about the Mishkan, not to mention part of Ki Tisatu. So at a conference at the Center for the Jewish Future recently, and they were saying that sometimes you have to ask yourself, how do you get into that sweet spot, into that best mental place? And sometimes it involves imaging. To imagine that you were in the best place where you learn best, the place that inspired you most, in the proximity of those individuals who had the greatest influence on you. Imagine that even though right now you're not there, imagine that you are, and maybe that will help you get into that good zone that you once were in when you were in that place. Perhaps that's what a Mishkan is. A Mishkan, a tabernacle, or the Beit HaMikdash, the Holy Temple in Jerusalem, is that place that's not only there, over there, but it's a place we can image, we can imagine wherever we are. In Yechezkel, after the destruction of a temple, the prophet Yechezkel is told in chapter 40, verse 4, he said, see with your eyes, listen with your ears, v'sim libcha, and place your heart, l'chol asher ani moreh otcha, to everything that I show you. He's going to show him all the details of the future temple. Ki leman harodcha huvata hena, I brought you here to show it to you. Hageda kol asher ata roeh levet Yisrael. Tell everything you see to the Jews. Here Yechezkel is giving a message of hope that there will be a new temple, there'll be a third temple, there'll be a beautiful temple, second temple. But it's also for all of us, for all eternity. We need to know, even when there is no actual physical temple there, they imaged it. He had a prophecy in which he was in that temple, even in its destruction. The rabbis say that in the Midrash, that the Mishkan, that tabernacle, it was never destroyed. Yes, the Shiloh, it was destroyed, but when they built the temple in Jerusalem, they took the tent and all those parts and they buried it under the Temple Mount. The Mishkan is still there, and in that sense, it's there for us to access as a place of beauty, as that sweet spot, as that ideal location for us, ideal mental image for us. It's still there. So much so that when we read the Gemara, Daf Zayin Amud Aleph in Brachos, that there was a rabbi who, although he lived after the temple was destroyed, he says that he went in to bring holy incense offerings. Rishma ben Elisha is bringing incense offerings. He lived while the temple was still there. Maybe not. Maybe this rabbi is saying, even though there is no temple, I had an image in my mind that I was there offering the incense on the incense altar. He was a Kohen, and that's what he did. You can image it. You can imagine yourself in the Holy of Holies. But this is not some abstract thing that you should do when you want to meditate on a Tuesday afternoon. This is really built in to the very idea of Shemona Esrei, of the Amidah, of the silent devotion of the Jewish prayer, the 18 blessings. It's built into it right there. We look in the Shulchan Aruch, and he says, when you wake up, if you're outside of Israel, you should intend your heart toward the land of Israel. That's what the Rambam describes, If you're in Israel, so then you face Jerusalem. If you're in Jerusalem, you face the sanctuary. If you're in the Beis HaMikdash, then you face the Holy of Holies. If you're in the Holy of Holies, you face the Aron. But what if you're outside of Israel? So the first view is, you face Israel. If you're outside of Israel, you face Israel. When we face east, we're not facing Jerusalem. It's wrong. We're facing Israel. It's the best we can do. We don't have an exact aiming gear that we can we can aim our prayers directly to Jerusalem. But comes the Shulchan Aruch and quotes the Rabbeinu Yonah on the Gemara there in Brachos and says, no. You should also intend your heart. You should also have kavanah. You should also be aiming your prayers to Jerusalem, yes, to the Beis HaMikdash, to the Holy Temple, and to the Holy of Holies. It's not only if you're in the sanctuary, then you should face the Holy of Holies. Even outside of Israel, we're not even close. We too can image the Holy of Holies. That when a person prays on a regular Tuesday night, a regular Shabbos morning, you can stand there, and you should, and try to imagine the Holy of Holies. But there is no Holy of Holies. We're facing a figment of our imagination. It's not there, it's destroyed. But the Mishkan is still there. The place is still there. And the image needs to be there. Yechezkel told us the image, we need to learn it, we need to know it. Today they have wonderful videos. You can see, you can imagine in a very concrete form, in a visual form, you can see how the Mishkan was, how the Beit HaMikdash was. There are all kinds of videos in the Davidson Center in Jerusalem. You can get videos about it. We can imagine it. These parshiot, if you read them well, we can imagine it. But this is not just about some spiritual quest to imagine this sweet spot, this home away from home that we can imagine. There's something else as well. And that is that when we image the Torah, when we image the Holy of Holies, we are imagining a lesson as well. When we think of that Aron, that holy ark, we're thinking of the importance of Torah. When we think of the shulchan, that table there with the showbread, we're thinking the importance of kindness. As Rabbi Saul Berman once pointed out, it shows that bread is always on the table, the refrigerator is always full, we're always available for chesed and kindness. And when we see when we think of the Mishkan, V'haya Mishkan Echad, it unites the Jewish people all in one. It's the place, the central place where all Jews would go. It's the idea of Jewish unity comes across. It's not just a place to commune and to be spiritual. It's also a didactic place that shows us how to be and what our values should be. We should always have that image of Torah, image of kindness, image of avoda, of worship. And if we have this in mind, then whether the temple is there or not, whether it's destroyed or not, we can imagine it, we can image it. And why are we reading these parshiot these days? Because we've got to get it clear, we got to get it clear, we got to get it 100%, so we can imagine it as if it were there. And every single day in our prayers, we can face the temple in Jerusalem, even if it's not there. We can face the Jerusalem above, that temple that's the Mikdash Hashem, the sanctuary of God. That's always there. It's always accessible for every Jew, for every human being, as Shlomo HaMelech pointed out. It's always there to pray toward, because it may not be there physically today, but in our imagination, it's always there. Thank you for joining us here, the Anshe Sfar Beth Lameth congregation, for a discussion of Parshat Pekudei. Join us each week for the discussion of the Parsha. And thanks to Jason Lefkowitz, our producer.
This has been 10 Minutes for Torah with Rabbi Joel Finkelstein. To learn more, visit ASBEE.org.